Welcome back to TCM's Den of Iniquity, Noir Alley. I'm Eddie Muller, your tour guide through the more perilous parts of Dark City. Now, according to the publicity department at Columbia Pictures, the movie you are about to see, 711 Ocean Drive, dared to reveal so much of the inner workings of organized crime, it actually had to be filmed under police protection. This press book is packed with one story after another about how the studio valiantly pressed on with this groundbreaking film despite constant threats of sabotage and violence. Much is made in these pages of how Columbia Pictures took out insurance policies with Lloyd's of London to protect against the kidnapping of stars Edmund O'Brien and Joanne Drew. Let me quote, "It can now be revealed that key Los Angeles police officers, instituting security measures that recalled the top-secret activities of the government in wartime, guarded the filming of 711 Ocean Drive against repeated threats of violence." You think maybe there's just a smidge of overheated PR hype here? Well, we'll get to the truth of the matter in a moment. First, let me provide some context. 711 Ocean Drive was one of the first movies that Columbia made, and definitely its best, in what would become a new subgenre of noir in the 1950s, the exposé picture. Congressional hearings into organized crime had captured the public's imagination, especially after they started being broadcast on television. Hollywood sensed a public craving for dramatic reenactments of the events being revealed, albeit vaguely and undramatically, in congressional chambers. A pair of enterprising writers, Richard English and Francis Swan, who'd made no significant mark in Hollywood up to this point, had the idea of cozying up to LAPD Lieutenant William Burns. Now, Burns was the leader of the department's legendary Gangster Squad, a group of cops given carte blanche to keep organized crime beyond the LA County line. Their renegade exploits could not be properly depicted until decades later in such violent cops and robbers sagas as Mulholland Falls, LA Confidential, and Gangster Squad. Back in 1950, while the squad was still in action, it was a pretty big deal for Burns to give these two writers inside dope about the inner workings of interstate gambling rackets. But instead of turning it into a show about crusading cops, English and Swan told a tale about how an ordinary guy, in this case an electronics whiz played by Edmund O'Brien, rises through the rackets to become Mr. Big atop an illegal West Coast gambling empire. And you just know the fall will be spectacular.
There you are, Gazy. And take my advice. Make this a nice long trip.
Director Joseph Newman years ago appeared at one of my noir festivals where we showed 711 Ocean Drive. Now, he was proud of the film, which was the biggest production he directed up to that time. He noted that there were obstacles during the production, especially when the company decided to shoot in Las Vegas. Vegas, of course, was built by gangsters and gambling money, and a film threatening to expose how the mob built the suckers was, as you might imagine, unwelcome. The Vegas scenes were switched to Palm Springs. And when it got out that the producers intended to stage the film's dramatic climax at Boulder Dam, 30 miles outside Vegas, Newman confirmed that discouraging phone calls were placed to producer Frank Seltzer and studio boss Harry Cohn. Now, rather than being scared off, the producer and the brass at Columbia turned the situation to their advantage, making it seem as if the production of 711 Ocean Drive was only slightly less daring than the landing of troops at Normandy. Now, considering that gambling today is a multi-billion-dollar legal racket, all this might seem like much ado about nothing. But what it all amounts to is a terrifically entertaining movie, one that gives Edmund O'Brien a rare chance to play the lead. And check out his threads. He's got so many wardrobe changes in this film, Claire Trevor would have been jealous. Okay, let's get it in gear. We are headed to 711 Ocean Drive.